Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Around the Fire. Today is going to be kind of a somber, sad one for me. Today, we are saying goodbye, rest in peace, and farewell to what seems to be the future development or future of what was always kind of an uncertain rifle, the Magpul Masada, or otherwise known as the Bushmaster ACR, or God damn it, why did that fall off again? This rifle, we did a video on it in 2016, and we were talking about, the facts that were publicly available, kind of, and some digging I had done on it, and where it was and what was happening with it, where the caliber swaps ever going to come, because that was the big thing with this, was a big selling feature. But I'm going to take you kind of through it all now, okay? So we're going to dive into it. We'll do the history of the Bushmaster ACR. So I've got my notes here, so forgive me if I pause occasionally. But obviously, most people know this was the Magpul Masada. Now, it went through a few different iterations and changes, and there were some reasons behind that. Now, Magpul was developing this by themselves back in the day, and it had developers such as Chris Costa, Richard Fitzpatrick, and Mike Mabry involved in the development. Originally, those people were all on the Magpul side. Now, they were shooting for originally a competitor or a somewhat competitor replacement for the M16. Now, a lot of you are going to say, wait a minute, I heard it was the M4. Well, that comes later. So that little bit of information is true, but it comes later into this story here. So they were trying to, like I said, do an upgrade to the M16. They came in at about a half-pound lighter, which they were happy with, because a lot of people, have made comments about this being a, rather heavy gun, and a front heavy gun at that. But they came in a half-pound lighter than the M16. They had gotten rid of, some troublesome features they thought of the M16, or the AR platform, the rear charging handle, and, having to disengage sights to, charge the rifle, et cetera, things like that, Things that also, they wanted people to be able to have cheek rise for modern day optic. I don't know that you're going to go and ever say that this was the cheek rise that we all required, but hey, it was there. Now, moving on, like I said, that was back in around I'm imagining 2005 era, because in 2006, they dropped that project completely, scrapped it. Now, 2006 to 2007 area, in 2007, they had prototypes of what we're seeing here. So the 2007 prototypes were sold, well, not so much sold, but the contract or licensing was sold to Bushmaster and Remington. Remington was going to try and produce the military variant, and the select fire, and the civilian one was going to be Bushmaster for us. Well, that's where things, in my opinion, started to get kind of crummy, and I just don't know how somebody didn't know from the beginning that the things that they wanted to do here weren't necessarily going to work out the way they wanted. Because a lot of people, let's just pause right there. And a lot of people's complaints about this gun was, where are the caliber swaps? And they never came. And now a lot of them never came because a lot of them were originally never even in development. The first one, and one that was there all along, was 7.62 by 39. This gun's original intention was supposed to be sort of like a special forces, insurgent gun. They could drop in with their equipment and ammunition, and then they could have a switchover set to run 7.62 by 39, and they ran AK pattern magazines. Now, people will say, what? Dude, that never happened. Those were aftermarket companies that were finally, years and years later, starting to make those. No, man, I'm telling you, go back and watch Discovery Channel had a Future Weapons episode with the Magpul Masada in it. And if you carefully go back and watch that episode, you will see that they build an AK version on a table in that video. And I mean, they slapped this thing together in, less than a minute. And it has got a AK lower receiver that takes AK pattern magazines with a thumb release. And that shit is titties. but it never happened. And now why did it never happen? Because serial numbers, right? You know, the lower being, you know, the gun, right? The registered firearm, and the upper being swappable. You know, now Chris Vector, I believe, did the process the opposite direction. But for some reason back then, they didn't think about that and figure that out. I don't know what happened there, because they were like, oh shit, what do we do now? You know, we're going to come out with these new lowers, and it's going to have to be registered as a new firearm. Still, though, don't know why that didn't happen, because, you know, you can buy lowers everywhere and register them as a firearm and build your own AR-15s and such. So, really, still, even in that playing field, doesn't make sense. Some barrels and some things came later. You know, some people built conversions, you know, ACR forum guys and stuff like that, machinists. So many things were just, you know, all aftermarket. Nothing really good on the Remington Bushmaster side. So moving on. This gun's intention at that point was no longer to compete in military trials with the M16, but now they were shooting for the M4. And in my opinion, that was a mistake. You were shooting for a big dog at that point. Let's face it. The M4 was a dope rifle, still is a dope rifle, and it is hung around, you know. Pardon me. It wasn't going anywhere. I mean, just now, what is it, 2020, and we're starting to see different things the military is touching on. You know, we're seeing alternates, but possible alternates even. Nothing, you know, solid, set in stone. All right, and that covers the brief history, I think, in a nutshell. You know, I don't want to bore you guys too much to death here. But let's talk about what, in my opinion, made this gun, first of all, one of the coolest damn guns in the world that I'm never going to get rid of. And then we'll go into what was its unfortunate shortcomings. So number one, on the good end, is just cool factor. Really, really nice firearm. It's not an AR. You know, it was something new, something different to pick up. Starting at the business end, you got the threaded barrel, nice heavy contoured barrel with a lot of machining, you know, for weight, but still has that nice contour to it. It's a nice accurate barrel. You could do whatever you wanted on the end here, direct thread suppressors and whatnot. You got your adjustable gas system. Very nice stuff. I've got a polymer rail on this one. That's just what I had back then. Back when I purchased this one, my serial number on this one is, let me see here, 3,206. So it's an earlier one, but not that earlier one. I mean, I can't remember what year. I think I bought this in 2016 because that's the year we did the original video. But I mean, it had definitely been on the market at that point for, hell, what, 8 years or so? It was good, you know, good long time. But they didn't have, I don't think back then, the enhanced receiver. Even if they did, I probably wouldn't be able to afford it because this thing was like $2,000 back then. Moving back, ambidextrous capable charging handle. This is another one of those things that it's like, you know, Bushmaster, what were you thinking? This is really great. I don't have a problem with it. Wish it was a little bit longer, maybe a little bit more extended, maybe one of those ones that fold away. I guess I'm being a little bit of a nitpicker there, you know, but if you were going to try and build the, you know, absolute future of rifles, you know, think futuristically. But then again, I mean, being fair, this was all thought up in like 2006, so this was like, you know, alien technology almost in 2006. It has a short stroke gas rod system, which is really cool. Big reciprocating mass in here, firing pin and spring system, no buffer, foldable stock, which it was always a nice feature. This stock was actually probably more popular than this entire gun. A lot of people still today are putting them on stuff, and you'll see adapters still today for these. Pretty cool stock. Has nice positive retention when it's there, but not a clip-in, and then it just pops back into place real nice. Adjustable cheek well. You gotta snap it forward and snap, you know, up and down, and then snap it back into position. I gotta wear it like it, so I'm leaving it there. The safety was always a little spongy on these. The trigger was a little bit weird, and it's inside of a housing. Just to show everybody so they're, you know, not gonna poop their pants or call me a moron. Gun's unloaded. But yeah, I mean, all in all, you know, it's it's a really neat firearm. It's got a very, like I said, a very cool factor to it. Monolithic upper, single extrusion, you know, along there. It had the quick change barrel system, which I'll show you here. Which, you know, let's start now kind of getting into the things that weren't so great about this gun. So this was a quick change barrel system, or so they called it, right? And some rifles it worked fast, and other rifles it didn't. Now, in my particular rifle, the barrel is seated very well and never wants to come out. That is a good thing for my accuracy, because a lot of people always had problems getting these things super tight again. You kind of have to use like you know, a dead blow hammer or something like that. Don't want to mess up your stuff here, but you really did have to kind of knock that thing back over and click it into place. Now, we now in 2020 have a lot better quick change barrels. So I just don't know that the technology was there then, maybe, I don't know, or just the design. I mean, hell, all it takes is a good engineer to come up with a design. I'm not saying you guys did bad, but I just don't think this was ever going to work. And I don't think this whole barrel assembly thing was ever going to work in the commercial market. Now, in the military market, it very well could have. But I don't think it was ever going to take off in the commercial market for the simple reason that there's so much going on here. You've got a barrel, you've got the gas block, you've got the rod, you got the adjustable system here, and all of this comes out as one unit, okay? So that's a lot of machining, you know, the tools on each one. It's all part of the thing. It doesn't stay behind, you know. I think you would have had to have a barrel with a removable gas block, a quick release gas block system, some sort of thing. And this bit here would have had to have stayed behind, or some release system would have had to stay behind. And basically, boom, just the barrel would have had to come out. And that would have been a couple $100. You know, that I could see working out. But you ended up with a system here that at the cheapest I ever saw them was like around $600 and sometimes more. So that alone was like, ouch. And then you were looking at the internals, you know, you needed the new firing systems inside, you know, to go along. And then sometimes, like I said, like, you know, if you're gonna go with an AK lower, now at this point it's like, wow, damn, I might as well build a whole new gun. And quite frankly, for the price, you could have. So right there, that's the number one fail, I think, here for this rifle. Now, a lot of people, like I said, you know, when you see reviews of this thing, they're like, it's front heavy, you know, the trigger's mushy, you know, things like that. Those are all things you can fix or get over. I mean, I've never found too many guns that come with an amazing trigger right out of the box. This one does have a box style trigger in there that is kind of floating around, and they did actually make some like aftermarket stuff to kind of tighten that up, because that does kind of like actually wiggle. You can actually audibly hear it. Like, that's not the trigger itself, that's the whole trigger box inside the lower wiggling around, because it's not pinned in any way. The controls were really cool on this gun, ambidextrous and fun. You know, the slide release was right there for your index finger. You see a lot more stuff like that nowadays on like your CZ Scorpions and other, you know, pistols and rifles that are trying to be more, you know, ambidextrous, ergonomic, and like, you know, forward thinking. The gun itself has always fired well. I've never had any issues with it. Most of the issues I've seen with people that really love the gun, that they, you know, have complained about, are things like taking the barrel off, putting it back on, being either difficult, and or when you get the barrel back on, you would have, you know, a point of impact change due to the fact that maybe the barrel wasn't correctly seated. Later models of this gun that were coming out, these screws and stuff were tending to walk out because for whatever reason they weren't Loctited. I've never taken mine out, and I'm not going to check if they are, but I'm imagining, you know, with all the rounds I put down this gun, I'm imagining that they are, and that things were just really starting to get overlooked towards the end there. Because like I said, this is 2020, and now Bushmaster, Tapco, and DPMS are all gone. Remington has said they will not be continuing support for any of that stuff. So if you go to their websites right now, they're basically just blank with like a phone number. If you go to Remington's home website, you know, there's no longer links to DPMS or Bushmaster or anything like that. They're going to continue, you know, their core lines, which is like Marlin and whatnot. So very, very sad. Like I said, this gun is a favorite of mine. You know, maybe Magpul can reacquire the license and do something with it in the future. I am not a lawyer. I am not in that business, you know, on that sort of, you know, corporate type of end. I do love firearms, but I don't love firearms enough to sit behind a desk and work at that type of job. You know, it would be cool to see future development of this. It would be cool to see some changes made. And there were, you know, there were odds and ends they did different for like military trials, including, you know, just a barrel nut and dropping some weight off the front end. You know, they tried a lot of different stuff. Like I said, they went up against the M4, didn't get the job. You know, so I think after that, I think, like I was saying, I was talking earlier in the video about this charging handle and what being one of Remington's screw-ups. I remember 2019 SHOT Show, you know, one thing I always look forward to is what's going to be new with the ACR. Is something going to happen with the ACR? Is something going to happen with the ACR? And they were like, hey, yeah, we got a new two-sided charging handle. I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? Excuse my French here, guys, but you know me, I got a potty mouth already. But I mean, cripes, man. You gave us a double-sided charging handle in 2019. Like, that was the big deal. Like, Christ, you know? And it's just like, you know, these were $2,000 guns. People had spent a pretty amount of money on these, you know, in support of it. And every time you called Bushmaster and asked, like, hey, what the hell is going on here? You know, you guys made promises. When are they coming? You always got the same answer. Oh, they're coming. We just don't know when. You know, we're working on legal ends of things. We're working on this, you know, that and the other thing. Same BS every time. You know, and it's just so unfortunate because I feel like really, you know, obviously they wanted to sell them. They're a company that needed to make money. But just, God damn it, guys. Like, you had the support of a community that would have stood behind these things had you just not screwed them all over. You know, so we'll see. You know, we'll see what happens. But I think this one's pretty much dead in the water. But, you know, as far as like a review goes, you know, if you got the money to buy one and you find one on a decent deal, pick one up. They're cool. But, you know, you might have to start worrying about where am I going to get parts for it, you know, is a realistic factor. Now, I've never had anything break on it. But, you know, God forbid, you know, but if that happens, you know, I'm not totally positive to, you know, as to where to look, except for go and maybe ask some fellas over on ACR for them. So, you know, the choice is yours. It's an amazing firearm. It shoots really great. I think they're a ton of fun. I think they had a ton of fun potential, but it just, you know, never made it there. So, you know, maybe put it on your bucket list or something like that. But hey, that's it, guys. That's all I got for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that bell so you know when we're making new stuff. We got a web store coming soon. We're gonna have like stickers, you know, little sticker packs for magazines. We're gonna have big stickers for like your cars and toolboxes and stuff like that. I'm gonna make some cool morale patches for this last line thing. And eventually I'd like to make them in like different colors so everybody can have like, you know, whatever they want for their body armor, because nobody wants a white one, you know what I mean? Probably do them in like, you know, desert tan, OD green, you know. But also we're gonna have, you know, this optic setup. You'll see this guy more later because we're gonna do the optic setup we got on here. We're gonna do a test on these UTG products. We've got the UTG T-Dot and 3X magnifier that co-witness with it. But yeah, stay tuned, you know, more things to come. Like I said, you know, the web store, we're gonna have some t-shirts, you know, for those of you guys that don't know, I tattoo for a living, you know, that's my day-to-day, so I'm, you know, kind of gonna make some cool, I don't know, I think they're really cool, like, the artwork's gonna be neat and fun, you know, just cool gun shirts that aren't stupid, because I feel like so many firearm related shirts like that represent us are kind of dumb, and you really don't want to wear out with your friends all the time. I mean, maybe sometimes to make a statement, but other times you're like, I don't know, maybe it's just, maybe you just want something stylish that gets the message across. That's a little more you. So we'll have some things, and the good thing about that, oh, pardon this ball of hair that's been here the whole time. But you know, the good thing about all that too is, like I said, you know, the web store will have set up everything. All the proceeds are going to go back into the channel, and you know, anything you guys spend there, we're gonna put back into this, and we're gonna do giveaways and fun things like that, you know, so we'll have a good time with it, hopefully. So that'll be soon. But like I said, thank you very much for watching. You know, have a good one. Take care. Stay out of trouble. Yeah. Till next time.